Hey everyone, it's me again and welcome back to When Cathy Colors. Tonight we'll be coloring with Chameleon pens on this beautiful book by Jason Hamilton, Color Me Beautiful Women of the World. And tonight we will be using the Chameleon's 5 pen skin tone pack. So here it is. And it's one of the great things to invest on if you want to buy just a few chameleons to add to your collection. And it features 5 different tones which you can combine in different ways to achieve different skin tones for different ethnicities. So tonight we will be coloring one of the pages here, and this is one which I've already done before. I think you guys must have seen this on my Instagram account or on my Facebook account, When Cathy Colors. And you have to note that on this book, the alcohol pens do bleed through, so you will need to put a sheet of paper in between the pages. So this is the page we will be working with. It is the Chinese girl on his intermediate section of the book. And we will start off by using NU0, which is a sand. And I find that this is the color which is most versatile out of all the 5 colors in the pack, because this can be the base for all skin tone and then just overlay it with the different colors to achieve different kinds of skin tones. So here, as usual, you just make sure that when you activate your chameleon pen, you hold it down vertically for a while, and that you start with the lightest area of the skin before moving out towards the shadowed areas. And then for her cheekbones, I do tend to color in an oval fashion. You will see this in a moment. You start off by the highest point of her cheek and move outwards in an oval fashion so that you can get the highest part of that area of her face, and then just move outwards. Now I will do the other eye. Again, start off from the middle of the eye, moving towards the nose, because the corner of the eyes are usually one of the darkest areas of the face. And then again, from the middle of the eye, moving out towards the other side of her face. And then from here, I just add shadows where her hair lies, because obviously the hair would cast some shadows on her face. And then again, I use an oval motion in creating that light area for her face. And that way we can bring out her cheeks even more. So I would bridge the gap between the two eyes by using a simple gradation. Usually that's around maybe 4 or 5 seconds. And then from there, I move up from that bridge of her nose up to the hairline. So you can see that as we progress further up with your chameleon pen, it gets a little darker towards the hairline, and that way it will be easier later on to add extra shadows for more dimension. Now, usually when we color the nose, the bridge of the nose and the bulb of the nose is the lightest area, and it gets darker. So see, I move in a direction towards the left side of her face, and I connect the two areas with just with no activation whatsoever. That is because I'm coloring this flat, because I know that I will be overlaying another color on later. So again, move in an oval or circular fashion so that her chin would come out and have a lighter area. So under her nose, and the top of her lip usually is a little lighter, so I activate that a little bit, and the bottom of her mouth. Now from the chin again, I move outwards to the left side of her face, and that's how we achieve the different contours of a woman's face. Now I do add a few more shadows just using the pure tone of the pen at some areas nearer to the edges of her face, because that's where the darkest shadows would be. And then I would activate the pen again to move from the center of her neck, moving all the way out where her neck meets the base of her head and her jawline. From there, I want to add a few more details and highlights for her arm. And again, I will move from the center, because I do imagine that our light source will be towards the front of her face and her body, which means most of the highlights would be towards the front as well. So again, move in a careful and straight motion so that you can get a nice contouring for her arms. So now I'm going to add a second color, which is caramel. That's NU4 on the skin tone pack. And again, I do like using the brush nib because it's much easier to blend out with. And with this pen, I just add a few more additional shadows and highlights. And what's great with these alcohol pens or these chameleon pens is that you can overlay them over and over again. And by activating it, I create extra dimension to her face. So it's just a matter of adding where I want the shadows to be. So that would be under her jawline, near the base of her nose so that the nose will protrude further from her face. I do add some shadows under her cheeks and on her jaw so that the cheeks would move forward on her face. And coloring skin tone for faces does take a little bit of practice, but a little goes a long way in terms of shadow, so don't go too crazy on adding on her face. And then here I'm just adding shadows for her arm, and see how it seamlessly blends with the color which we used before. And here she is. So now I like using a flesh tone pencil. It can be any brand, just to correct some areas which I think might be too light, or I made a mistake in adding the gradation. So some areas might be a little, like abrupt in the transition. So I just add a very, very tiny amount of pencil. It may seem like I'm coloring a lot, but actually I'm using a very, very light touch with it, just so that I can blend it out and correct any mistakes that thankfully are not too visible on camera. Now for the rest of her face, I just color her in her eyes with some browns, and I use light peach to color in her lips. I like using this light color because it's very easy to adjust later on if I want her lips to be redder or darker or lighter. And then for her hair, I do prefer using burnt umber, which is BR4 on the same skin tones pack. And I like using brown instead of black because, again, if you use a lighter color when you do something on your coloring page, it's much easier to adjust later on if you feel that you colored too dark or too light. Now, what's great with this chameleon's pack is that not only was I able to color in her skin, I was also able to color in her hair with just less than 5 pens. So from here on, it's just a matter of coloring everything in depending on how you want to add highlights or shadows to your coloring page. What's great with this book and most books is that they can take alcohol pens as long as the coloring book that you're working on is a one-side print book, because if it's printed on the other side as well, then you might have to scan your page first before working on it, because the ink will just bleed through. So I do just add a few more colors. That's her for her ribbon, and for her collar I do like red because the Chinese New Year is coming up, so let's make her as festive as we can. And remember, in my previous tutorial, if you want anything to look more curved, just make sure to start the highlights at the highest curve of the bow or the ribbon or the hair. That way, it would enhance the drawing of the artist and make it look like as if it's really curving and the highest area of the arc is being caught by the light. So here we go. It's the same thing. I start off with the middle of the color and I move outwards. So I won't be coloring the rest of this page because I think you guys get a really good idea of how to do the skin tones already. So if you guys have any questions, don't forget to just comment down below. I'll be try my best to answer as many of them as I can. And you could also send me a message through my Facebook page at When Cathy Colors. So once I color everything in with my chameleons, and this is how it's gonna look like. I did color the background with a gold paint pen, which I found at a art supply store. And the rest of her I just colored with the chameleons and added just a few more highlights on her red dress. So guys, if you want to see more tutorials from me, please hit like and please subscribe to my channel When Cathy Colors. You can also check out my Instagram account at When Cathy Colors. And thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!